Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for an episode of the Cosmopolite Collective. I'm your host, Diana Lortzen, and I'm here with a very special guest, Sharren Lewis from WanderLuxe Experiences.
Hey guys. Hey guys.
So, we are here today to talk about the travel industry and more specifically about the role of a travel agent in your travel plans and how that can be helpful, whether it's for solo trips or group travel experiences. We've got our special guest here to answer questions and to let us know about her experiences starting her own travel business and also finding ways to make travel accessible to the masses. So, Sharren, thanks so much for joining me today. We're so happy to have you here.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And I want to start out by asking you, can you share a little bit about your background and what led you to start WanderLuxe Experiences?
My background, it's I have a background in the legal industry. I've worked in the
Mhm,
legal industry as a senior paralegal in biopharmaceuticals for a very long time, about 10
mhm.
years. I've always loved to travel. So, starting this business felt like, something natural for me to be doing as the next stage in my life. So, um, I wanted to, travel the world, help others, live out their dreams of travel and create experiences that people will enjoy for the rest of their lives.
So that's so interesting because I actually work in the legal industry too, which is so funny. And I had no
Do you
idea
really?
that that was your background. I work more on the legal business development side, but that's so interesting that that's your
Okay.
background. I had no idea
It
about that.
is.
So,
Mhm.
what made you just stop one day and say, you know what, I'm doing this paralegal thing. I want to be a travel agent. How did you even get there?
I decided that, I've been traveling for a very long time. My first adult travel experience was when I was 21. I went on a trip to Honolulu, Hawaii, because my favorite entertainer was there, Janet
Hmm.
Jackson. So, I had a great time. I saw her in concert. I met a lot of friends there. And, during the whole experience, it was like, oh my goodness, it's like I realized that the world is much bigger than, the area that I live in. It's bigger than my city, it's bigger than my state, and there's so much to see. So ever since that trip, I always that's when I developed my passion for exploring. So, from traveling from country to country and seeing different places, I always wondered, whether that was something that I could do professionally, whether I could, had the skills to plan trips, whether people would be interested in that, whether it's something that, would be lucrative. It was after the pandemic that I decided to go and take the test and get certified and join a host agency so that I can, live out
Hmm.
my dream.
So, what
And here I am.
exactly? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm curious. What exactly does it take to be certified as a travel agent?
You have to first you have to take your TAP test. You study for that. You take a test. I believe it's 150 questions. It takes some people a couple months. It takes others longer, depending on how fast you learn and retain the information. Um, it took me maybe 2 months to read and retain the information, and I took the test and I passed with a very high
Oh,
score.
nice.
So after you pass the test, yes, after you pass the test, you are, you have to go and find a host company, which is a larger travel agency
Hmm.
that you would be affiliated with. So I went out, I did my research, and I found my travel agency host, and I've been with them ever since. I joined them last year, so I've been with them ever since.
So, these hosts, what exactly does that entail? Like, these are just larger travel agencies that have travel agents working for them, or is there like a specific? I mean, is it if you would have taken your test and just started your own business, could you have done that too, or do you need to find a host travel agency?
Yes, you need to be affiliated with a host agency. because in order to get to the next level of being a travel agent, there is a requirement that you have at least a year
Mhm.
of experience in the industry. So that's pretty much the what the host agency serves as
Okay.
to get build your experience. They give you resources to learn. You're allowed to sell travel during this time. You're allowed to affiliate with many different businesses in the hospitality
Mhm.
industry. So it just helps you to grow and gain clients and better your experience in the travel industry.
Yeah. And so once you joined the agency, what were the next steps then? How did you kind of jump off and start WanderLuxe Experiences?
Once I joined the agency, let me go back a little bit. Prior to that, I had planned a few trips for a few friends of mine and some family to Paris.
Mm.
Um, I decided that I was going to plan this trip. It's going to be 10 to 12 of us. I'm going to make sure everything is taken care of, the hotels, the transportation, the excursions, because I wanted to see whether it was something that I could do, whether I had the skills, whether I had the drive, whether I
Mhm.
just, had the resources. So I planned this trip to Paris and it turned out
Mm.
amazing. Everyone had the best time ever. And I was just so proud of myself. I was like, after the trip, I was like, this is definitely something that I can do. It's definitely something that I can do. So that was the one thing that made me feel like, you know, joining this host agency and starting my own business is something that I needed to do for myself.
And I'm curious, what has your experiences been like as a Black travel agent? I got to ask the
It's
question.
it's 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 been interesting. I haven't had very many bad experiences so far.
Mhm.
Um I think my experiences have been more general
Mhm.
with, dealing with the general public. People are reaching out to you, they want information or they want you to help them, plan a trip, but they're not really interested in paying for your
Yes.
services. So that's been my a repeat situation that I've been dealing with. But as far as being black, as I really haven't experienced anything that reminded me of my blackness.
Yes, and it's so interesting that you mentioned the services, people not paying for services because I remember I started a consulting business like I don't even 10, 12 years ago. And I remember it was the
Yeah.
same thing where I would help people with business plans and do all kinds of things. And because either I was their friend or because I don't know, I've just seemed approachable or whatever it was, they wanted me to all help them and do free reviews and business plans and consulting work for them and didn't want to pay for it. And I used to always think, like, you don't go into a store and say, I want that shirt, give it to me for free because we know each other,
No,
or just
definitely.
give it to me for free
Exactly.
because, you have to treat your business like a business and people have to learn to
Absolutely.
respect that. And I run into this a lot with my friends who are event planners. They
Hmm.
plan weddings or do different things like that. And they have the same experience all the time. Everyone, kind of wants your talents, but they don't want to pay for that. So what
Exactly.
have you done or have you figured it out yet? What the magic recipe is to get people to actually pay for services that they want?
Um, you have to sell yourself.
Mhm.
It's a business. You're providing a service. You're providing a service, whether they're interested in joining on a group trip or whether they want you to plan a custom trip for
Mhm.
them. You have to make sure that the service that you're providing is top notch. You have to make sure they know the reason why they've chosen you
Mhm.
over a different company. So definitely always selling yourself, always making sure that what you're putting out there is what you want to be seen.
So in terms of what you're putting out there, how do you go about creating unique and memorable travel experiences for your clients?
Before the past few months, I want to say, I it was a struggle. It was a little bit of a struggle as someone new in the industry. um, going on to Instagram, trying to learn
Mhm.
and, and deal with the algorithm and knowing when to post, what to post, how
Mhm.
many times to post. But um, I do a lot of research. I try different things. I'm always open to trying different
Mhm.
things. And I'm learning now that you have to know how to relate to your audience.
Mhm.
Make sure that what you're saying is relatable. Make sure that everyone can understand what you're trying to say clearly so
Mhm.
that, they can feel like they're a part of the experience as well.
Yeah. And it's so hard on social media. I go through this all the time because, the other members of the collective that I work with, we're always trying to figure out what kind of posts do our audience want to see? Is it the
Mhm.
funny memes? Is it the actual content? Is it the carousel posts? Is it this and that? And you never really know because sometimes posts that I think people will like, there's no hits. And then other ones will post a random video or a reel or something. And I'll look at the analytics and I'm like, what? Like, this is the one
Yeah,
that people
yeah,
related to. This is what resonated with
right.
the audience. So sometimes it's really
Exactly.
difficult to know that. And one of the challenges I think as a small business owner is that you have to learn how to not only provide the service and do what you're good at, but also how to market yourself, right?
That's true.
And
That's right.
so, what are some of the most valuable tips that you've learned marketing yourself, be it social media or any other forms of marketing?
Some of the things that I've learned to market myself and my
Mm-hmm.
business is just always, continue to learn, be open to learn,
Mm-hmm.
be open to take constructive criticism, reach out and ask for help
Mm-hmm.
when you need it. Because there are people, who have done this for a long time that will be able to help you. I reached out to you guys
Yeah.
and asked you a question because I wasn't quite sure what I was doing. So, and also build
Mm-hmm.
connections, network with people, make sure that you're there, make sure that people are seeing your face,
Mm-hmm.
make sure they know who is creating the content, who they're paying attention to, and make your face familiar to your
Absolutely.
audience.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I also think that, for me, research was a really big part of it. But
Mhm.
also, as you said, reaching out to other people. I mean, that's how you and I were able to get connected. I reached out to you
That's
to
right.
ask if you'd want to be on this podcast, and you were someone that I had met over our social media. So there are advantages to using social media. But a lot of it also is
Absolutely.
about building that network and finding that support and that the word of mouth and referrals and all of those things. And a lot of times, that can be difficult because in order to be able to have those things, sometimes you have to actually start the business, right? You actually have to
Right.
have some
Yes.
experiences that you can go off of to promote.
Mhm.
So, are there any really special experiences that you've created that you want to share?
Created as in
Travel
experience in
experiences.
the past or coming
It
up,
could be either
experiences
or.
that are coming up.
Yeah.
Um, I have a trip to Cartagena coming up. It's a group trip that I
Ooh.
planned. Yes, it's going to be 11 of us
Uh huh.
there in July. It's going to be an amazing time. We're staying in a luxury four-star hotel, the Hyatt Regency Cartagena, which
Ooh.
I'm also affiliated with. And we have excursions planned, we have meals planned, we have a beach day. It's going to be an amazing time for
Mm-hmm.
my group of travelers. I'm very excited. Cartagena is one of my favorite places to be. I was there recently in December doing some work and going around and seeing things and scouting hotels and looking at the excursions. So I'm sure that they're going to enjoy it when we get there in July.
That's so interesting. For one, I love Cartagena because I went there for my friend's 40th birthday and we had
Right.
an amazing time. We actually got an Airbnb, but we had an
Okay.
amazing time. And she's actually a professional organizer. So she's not a
Okay.
travel agent, but she did a pretty good job organizing the trip because that's her day job, is doing professional organizing, which I would imagine as a travel agent you need to be very well organized. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, but it was a really, really fun trip. But that leads me to another question. When you decide to create these group experiences, how far in advance do you have to start looking? Do you just pick like, hey, here's a country or two that I want to go, that I want to, create an experience or a trip there, and so I'm just going to go scout it out and then put it together, or how does that process work for you?
So far, the trips that I'm planning, I pick a
Mhm.
destination. For the Cartagena one, I picked that one because I love it, and I know, it's a place that not a lot of people consider going to,
Mhm.
because the first thing when I mentioned this trip to one of my friends was that they kidnap people there.
Mm.
So those are the type of things that makes me realize that people need exposure to
Yeah.
things. People need to see different things. We all hear different things about different places. It's not safe. Don't travel here. Don't
Mhm.
travel there. Yes, take those things into consideration. Travel only when you feel safe, but make sure that the world is big.
Mhm.
There's lots to see. So when it comes to choosing the places that I want to go to, I go to some of the places I love, and I also, go and scout out new places. Our next trip I have scheduled for April of next year is Jamaica.
Ooh.
Um, I'll be going there, scouting out and doing all of the excursions and staying in the hotel and trying the food and trying the drinks and making sure that my group will have an amazing time.
So when you do that, when you do the scouting, which it's awesome that you go and experience everything first so that you know what your group will experience. But when you do that, is that part of your job, or is that all out of pocket?
It's part of my job,
Uh-huh.
and it's also out of pocket.
Okay.
For the Cartagena trip, I stayed in 3 different
Oh,
hotels
okay.
because I've been there before. I know what hotels they have to offer. I know the services they offer.
Mhm.
But I also wanted to check out a few other options. So I stayed at 3 different hotels. I checked out all of the services. I checked out all of the excursions and, all of the activities and the transfers, and, to make sure that they'll have a good time. So yes, it's all out of pocket, but it is my job. So
Yes. So hopefully it comes back around.
absolutely.
Yes.
It's part of my business. So it's, something that will be taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
So I'm
mhm.
curious, can you share one of the craziest or most unexpected challenges that you've encountered while planning a trip?
Craziest experiences.
Yeah, just where
I
things either went
had
awry or where it was just really, wow, I can't believe that happened, or
I had a client because I also book
mhm.
cruises. I had I believe he was 90. He was
Oh.
90 years old, and he wanted to go on a cruise. He doesn't. His wife passed away.
Mhm.
His kids live far away. So we were going through planning this cruise and making sure that everything was in order. Making sure he had the room he wanted, the excursions that he wanted,
Mhm.
making sure the insurance was there. And coming towards, finalizing the cruise, he asks me if I would like to join him on the cruise.
Wow.
Because he doesn't have anyone else to go with. So, I had to, of course, turn that down.
Yes.
But, I've gotten that request actually a couple times from a few different people planning, while planning their
My
cruises.
question
So
would have been,
it's
are you paying or
right, exactly. Exactly. So those are the things that I encounter as I'm planning trips. It's a very interesting situation. You learn a lot about people as
Yeah.
well. With especially with the cruises, you find out a lot of information, especially on from older travelers. You
Yeah.
learn a little bit about their history. You end up talking to them more than you would expect. I had a customer that I planned a trip booked his trip in December of last year. And I believe I spoke to him every single day
Wow.
since December until his cruise left on March 17th. Yes, every day. He called me every day to make sure that everything was in order and everything was right. So those are some of the things that I deal with. It's very interesting, but I enjoy doing it.
That's crazy. I don't know about it. I might be one of those people that's like, yeah, I'll go on the trip with you. I mean, obviously for you, for professional reasons, that's probably not a good idea.
Right.
But like I said, my first question would be like, are you paying? And if the answer is
Oh
yes,
my
it's
goodness.
when are we leaving? That's
Go and enjoy your trip.
yes.
That's all I'll
Yes.
say. Go enjoy it. Yes,
So I
absolutely.
have to ask this in
Mhm,
terms of people of color traveling. How
mhm,
does planning travel for people of color differ from other groups, if at all? Is it the same? Do you notice like the same destinations? Do you notice the same types of activities? Or does it differ at all? Because I know for me, I've been on so many different trips and I have noticed that there's a
mhm,
difference with certain groups of people I travel with. And I don't necessarily know if it's color related, but I'm always curious about that. I noticed that um, with different groups of people. For example, my white friends, the trips and the places that they want to go sometimes are different. And that includes like, it could even be the bars that we go to or those kinds of things. The type of experiences are a little bit different than when I go like with my black friends. So I'm curious if you
yeah,
notice any differences.
there are
Hmm.
differences, like you just mentioned, the certain types of adventures and the certain types of experiences that African Americans or Black people in
Hmm.
general are looking for are a little bit different than others. Other people tend to be a little bit more adventurous and looking for things to do and that are exhilarating and those types of activities.
Hmm.
We're a bit more laid back.
Hmm.
We want to feel good. We're looking for wellness and things that
When you're
help
saying
us
we're, do you
alleviate
mean African
stress.
Americans or black people?
African
Okay.
Americans, Black people in general. Yes. Yes, and even certain destinations that
Hmm.
are travel. A lot of Black people are not. They're hesitant to visit certain
Yeah.
places, but that's why I'm here
Hmm.
to help conquer those fears, so that we can discover new and exciting places together.
Yes. It's so interesting because I get asked that all the time, and like I said, I hate to always make it like, oh, race comes to play in this, but it's interesting to me because I've
Mhm,
had really fun trips, multicultural trips, or I've had, different trips with like more of my work friends versus my,
mhm,
school friends or things like that. And I always get asked different questions about like, well, what countries are safe for us to travel to, meaning black people, or or sometimes when it comes to water, like trips that have to do with water. Sometimes I have some of my black friends are like, I don't really know, about that. And so I've just noticed different things that have come up. And of course, this is not a blanket statement. Like it doesn't
mhm,
apply to everyone. I'm just curious if you had noticed certain things like that as a travel agent and
mhm.
planning excursions, because I would think that you would have to kind of be able to create experiences around the preferences of different groups.
Yes, I have to keep certain things in mind when I'm
Or the
planning,
sensitivities, I should
certain
say.
things. Right. I have to keep certain things in mind when I'm planning the
Mhm.
trips. Just as a reminder that not everyone would be interested in, water sports.
Mhm.
Not everyone is going to be interested in, for various reasons. They're not interested in it. They can't swim,
Mhm.
those types of things. So yeah, it's interesting, when you have to go through and plan and keep those things in the back of your
Yeah.
mind. But it comes with it. I think it comes with the job. It comes with the territory.
Yeah. And I'm also curious about when you plan a vacation for groups of people,
Mhm.
what is the first thing that you do when someone comes to you and says, "Okay, I want to go on a trip." Um, our group is, say I came to you and I said, I've got a group of girlfriends. We all want to celebrate something. We all want to go, I don't know, to South Africa or something like that. What are the next steps that you do? How do you help someone create this trip?
First, I would need to know how many people are
Mm-hmm.
going, the ages of the individuals, because depending on the ages that, you have to make sure that the things that they want to do, everyone will be able to do
Mm-hmm.
it. I find out, I ask them, what would you like your vacation to be like? What is the vacation that you dream of?
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that you want to do? What was your experience on your last vacations? What are the things that you encountered that made your trip not so great? What were the things that you encountered that made your trip a memorable
Mm-hmm.
experience? You go through a list of things to make sure that everything is covered. And once you get that information, you work your way down, getting all the information necessary, and then you find out the budget.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's
The
favorite
budget
part.
is what makes or breaks it sometimes.
Yes, absolutely. It does. It does. It does. You know, everyone's not a travel agent.
Mm-hmm.
So, knowing how much things cost and knowing, luxury and mid range and budget, I get a lot of requests for luxury vacations, and it's, the budget is
Not a
not
luxury
a
budget.
luxury. So I have to explain that, these are the things that you can get with your price. And I always offer, different options. I also make sure that they're aware that, you know, if you'd like to upgrade to something else, we can do that. But the budget, making sure that we
Mm-hmm.
we know what type of budget we're working with is very important.
And I've thought this a lot because I plan a lot of my own trips. But how has the travel industry changed in the sense that for everyone now, people can go on the internet and Google things and find hotels and, find, use different apps to find different excursions that they want to go on and things like that. How how does that come into play with you being a travel agent? Like, do you ever feel like people kind of feel like I can just do this on my own now? Or, like what do
Absolutely.
you feel like how has the role of a travel agent um evolved throughout like the ability for people to be able to just kind of look and find things themselves?
Um, I always say the average traveler, can book a trip. But travel agents and travel advisors, we create
Mhm.
experiences. So, anyone can go on Google flights and look for a flight. You can look for a hotel. You can read TripAdvisor reviews. You can do all of that stuff. And then, you get to your destination, you get to your hotel, and it does not look like the pictures.
Mhm.
Part of the important role of being a travel advisor is you have all of this information.
Mhm.
You have a whole network of other travel advisors in the industry and other travel professionals that can give you that
Mhm.
information. They can tell you, hey, this hotel is under construction. The whole seventh floor
Mhm.
is they're rebuilding the entire seventh floor building. So there will be noise, there will be lots of things going on. So, when it comes to, you know, being concerned about travelers feeling that they can book it themselves, they certainly can, but I believe that they're limiting themselves to or yeah, limiting themselves to just a trip. So, if you want an experience, definitely work with a professional. We have all the information that you need. We have all the resources to help you make your decision. And, we're there to help you while you're on the trip. Google doesn't have a phone number when something goes wrong.
Mhm. That's a good
No,
point.
Google's not calling you back.
Yeah, no, that's a great
I'm,
point.
I'm here and I'm available for you. If something goes wrong, I can help you. So, yeah, definitely.
That's no, and I've had those experiences where I actually just had a trip where a hotel was new and was undergoing construction, and you could hear it just throughout the whole time. You'd be just kind of hanging out by the pool, and you could just hear the hammering and
Mhm.
the, everything, and they're building a parking lot next door, and things like that. That it's like, oh, it would have been great to know this, or at least have maybe read more reviews or something before I had booked here. Um,
Right.
but with travel advisors, and I noticed you use the word travel advisors instead of travel
Mhm.
agent, which I really like that, a travel advisor. Somebody
Here to
who,
advise.
yeah, it's someone who's
Yeah,
really there to help advise you, to be a trusted advisor throughout your travel
absolutely.
journey. And so on this
Mhm.
journey, do travel advisors also help with, I don't know, discounts on different types of things, or are aware of, like, are there other benefits to using a travel advisor?
Yes, there are discounts. There are special rates. There's always, promotions going on
Mhm.
that aren't published that we have access to. So there definitely are many benefits to using a travel advisor.
And
Definitely.
how many hours does it normally take to plan? Because I'm imagining you probably charge by the hour, correct?
No, I do not
Oh,
charge by the hour.
okay.
I should. I should because it takes mm, it takes quite some time
Mhm,
to book. And I'm just gonna, talk about custom trip for maybe a husband and
mhm.
wife. That can take, I'm trying to put it in hours. Oh my goodness. It takes a lot of
Yeah.
time. It can take, a week, maybe 2 weeks just to finding the right hotel. It can take, if you're doing flights as well, you have to make sure that the flight information, the flights that you're putting them on is the correct flight. It's, whether they want a morning flight, an afternoon flight,
Mhm.
whether they prefer to land in the morning, land in the evening, whether they want to make sure that they land around the time that hotel check-ins start, which is usually in the
Yeah.
afternoon. So it takes a lot of research. It's and that's where I have a lot of
Mhm.
patience. I extend a lot of grace because I know that people aren't aware. That's I think people have the impression that they come to you and they want you to book a trip for them, and you go and you type in and you go to Google Flight and you pull it up and you send them the information, but that's not how it works. It
Mm.
takes hours, hours and hours
So do you charge a
to work on
flat
it.
rate, or how does that work?
I do charge a flat rate.
Okay.
I do charge a flat rate to do custom travel.
Yeah.
Um, So once they reserve it, they pay their rate,
Mhm.
and we go on from there.
Nice. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Although, as you mentioned, you probably should charge hourly.
I probably should. That's yes.
So so then you've been booking trips, you've started your own
Mhm,
business.
mhm.
Throughout your journey in this travel industry, what's the most important lesson that you've learned?
Patience,
Mm,
definitely patience and grace,
patience and grace.
because
Very good lessons to
yeah,
learn.
you give people grace, and you're just remain patient because you're dealing with the general public, and
Mhm.
personalities vary, interests vary, budgets vary, preferences vary.
Mhm.
So planning a trip is not cookie cutter. Everyone wants something different. Everyone wants something basically.
Mhm.
So um, I extend a lot of grace. I just remind myself that, I'm doing this because I enjoy doing it. I'm doing it because I love helping people. I love to see people exploring the world and, doing things that they enjoy.
Mhm.
So always, always extending grace.
So I have to ask, out of all the places that you've traveled, where's your favorite place?
I have a lot. I don't just have one, but I would say I love Paris. I love it. I went to France 3
Mm,
times in the past year and a half or the past 2 years.
wow.
It's one of my favorite places to be. The food, just it's just that, I guess, the energy that's there,
Mhm.
it's everything. I love it. And I know there are a lot of people that have traveled there, to Paris, that didn't enjoy themselves. They say that the food isn't good,
Mm.
the hotels aren't great, but I did not have that experience. I have not had that experience at all.
I did love Paris. I went to Paris after having this crazy amazing trip in London. Like I
Okay.
had this amazing trip in London. And London, I wasn't even excited about London when I was my first time there. I was like, oh, I planned a trip with one of my girlfriends and we were going to 4 different countries. And I figured, London would be a good stop for her because they speak English there. And this was her first time out of the country. And so I was kind of like, let's just get London over with and then we'll go to Paris and then all these other destinations. And
Right.
we went to London and had this amazing time. And
Did you?
on the last night
Okay.
of London, we met these really cool locals because one of my favorite things to do is to meet locals
Hmm.
and find out, hang out with them, go to the spots that they know about. And so we went to, you know, some different places with these locals that we met and had this amazing time and then had to be up really early to catch a train from London to Paris. And so we
Hmm.
got to Paris and it was beautiful. I mean, we went to like a lot of the main kind of tourist spots and we did a dinner cruise and we went to the Moulin Rouge and, we did different things. But I do remember my hotel room was really small.
Yes, they're very
It was
small.
super small. We could barely, I don't even remember if we could like both get on the elevator with our suitcases at the same time
Hmm.
because it was kind of like that,
Yep, they're very small. They're
and
very
they
small.
are a little bit pickier about the language. Like in some countries, if you try to speak a language, they're kind of like, oh, yeah, and they want to help you. And I didn't really get that in Paris
No.
as
Okay.
much. But I loved it there. I would definitely go back
Yeah.
again. It was funny because, like I said, I was kind of like, let's get London over with and then go to Paris. I actually did enjoy London more, which is
Okay.
interesting. Um,
Good to know. That's very interesting.
Yeah, which is it's interesting because but I've only explored Paris that one time and I was only there a few days.
Oh,
A friend of
right.
mine she went on a mother-daughter trip to Paris and had the most amazing time. And it was weird because I never
It's
thought of Paris as like the city where you really bring, young children as on like a
mhm,
mother-daughter trip and they just made it sound I don't have kids, but I was like, wow,
right.
I would definitely do the same trip that she did. So
It's a really good place. Paris is for everyone.
yes.
It's for everyone.
Yes.
Yes. So I love it there.
So Paris is your
I
what's
definitely love it
what's your
there.
least favorite place that you visited?
Rome.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Yeah, I didn't. I went many years ago.
Uh-huh.
I always say that I need to go back and redo it because I think I went there in 2010. I want to
Mhm.
say it's a long time. And if I remember correctly, there was a lot going on in the world at that
Mhm.
time. I think there were protests everywhere, or something was going on. So the experience was not what I thought it would
Mhm.
be. I got flashed by a strange man on the street. I got flashed. So that in itself, I was approached, by certain gentlemen,
Uh-huh.
for whatever reason, and it was a little overbearing.
Mm.
I yeah, it was overbearing. I couldn't enjoy being there. It was just so much happening at one time. It was just, but I need to go
Yeah, I
back.
was like,
I definitely need to go back and do it the right way, do it my way,
yes.
and and see what Rome has to
You've
offer.
learned
I
so
did
much
go
since
to
2010.
Florence. Right, exactly. I did go to Florence on that trip, and Florence was absolutely amazing.
Mhm.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. So I need to do Rome again.
Yeah, that's so and the hard part about traveling is that I've learned not to be too judgmental about certain
Right.
countries just because
Hmm.
I've visited countries again. Some countries usually I visit again because I really liked it there, but I've kind of learned to give another chance to some of the countries
Right.
that weren't always your favorite. Like, for example, I recently went to Curacao and I want to go again. This time it was
Mhm.
really relaxing because I had been on a string of trips. I went from like Alaska to Copenhagen in Sweden to
Wow.
Montreal, and then all
Oh,
cold trips in the wintertime, and then
oh,
went to Curacao at the end of it. And so all I'd been to four
oh,
countries in like a month and a half, 2 months.
that's a lot of
Yeah,
travel.
it was a lot. And so by the time I got to Curacao, I was not only kind of exhausted, but I was like, okay, we're just going to use this. It was my friend's birthday. I'm like, we're just going to use this as a really relaxing, fun trip. And we
Mhm.
did get to relax, but it was like I came back from Curacao and I saw all of these things that I wish I would have done or thought about or
Right,
explored. And I had wanted to go to Curacao for over a decade. I had been waiting
right.
and I felt kind of shortchanged because I'm like, this was not what I thought it was going to be. It was I had a great time. It was a really good trip,
Mhm.
but it was one of those trips where I was like, I want to do over. I want to go again. And
Yeah,
maybe I should have used a travel advisor that could have helped me find
right.
helped
Absolutely.
me
The
curate the
next time
trip.
you go, definitely book, book, get a travel advisor. I'm here if you're
Yes.
interested. But
Yes, you will be
book with a
my
travel
go-to.
advisor. Absolutely. And you'll get the experience that you deserve.
So
Definitely.
what's something that you want to leave with everyone about how they can use a travel advisor to create lasting memories and curate beautiful experiences? Or just any general kind of thoughts that you want to leave with the audience?
Travel the world.
Mm.
See the world, explore. The world is wide. The experiences are unlimited. Get out there, conquer your fears, and see the world.
So, before we wrap up, how can listeners learn more about WanderLuxe experiences or get in touch with you for their travel planning needs?
My website is www.live
Hmm.
They can find me on Instagram at Live Wanderlux and on TikTok at Live Wanderlux.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I've learned a lot, and I definitely will be using some travel advisors in my future because I'm very
Yes,
excited about how my trips can be enhanced and taken to the next
they
level.
can
So,
be. Absolutely.
thank you so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you today.
Likewise.
Yes.
And anyone in the audience, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the Cosmopolite Collective, ring the bell, or follow us on Instagram at the Cosmopolite Collective. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.